Hello, solutionaries. Welcome to the Awaken Sponda podcast. I am your hostess with the mostest, Arlen Ruddy. Thank you for joining us and thank you for tuning in. If you are new to the podcast, Awaken Sponda is a platform that's dedicated to supporting those on their spiral to wholeness through sharing stories, wisdom, and knowledge that can be directly applicable for generating and creating more energetic freedom within the self. Here we make the unconscious conscious daily, so if you are down with that sort of thing, then you may want to stick around to see what we got in store. In today's episode, we're going to be talking to Shawn Aceto. Shawn is an independent gong maker here in the USA. His gongs are worldwide, and his name is global as Shawn Aceto Gongs. He is just a very interesting soul and a great friend, and today we're just conversating about life as an American gong maker. So let's get into it. Shawn, is it you?
I'm here. I'm finally here.
We're here. We made it. Oh my God. We had a time with that. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling good. I'm glad we finally worked out the details here.
Yes, definitely.
It only
For
took a
everyone
few
out
weeks.
there. Yeah, I know. Yeah, me and Shawn had a time getting the recording going. But we're here. Do you get a little feedback right now, Shawn?
No, I got you loud and
Okay,
clear.
cool. Okay, good. Well, maybe it's just me. Hopefully that'll go away. Yes,
So
but
now
I'm
you get
glad.
to listen to yourself.
Yeah, basically. Oh man. But yeah, so I'm glad you were here. So tell me, what is it like being a gong maker in 2020 right now? 2022. Oh my God, I'm still back in.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point, right? It feels like the last 2 years hasn't happened.
Oh my God, yes.
It's been an absolute blur.
Literally.
What's it like? It's interesting because I somewhat operate in almost in isolation because I have my shop and my home and the showroom, and I
Yeah.
don't have a lot of face-to-face interaction before now, where before when I was contracting, I was with my employees, with other contractors, with homeowners and suppliers and vendors, and now it's just me. And I don't have to leave at a certain time. I don't have to come home at a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when I have a ton to do and times when I have none to do, and I have a lot of flexibility now. So it's very different. It's been
How
quite a
does it
change
feel?
for my schedule.
Does it feel good?
It does feel good. It takes a long time to get used to not being in that grind, not being
Yeah.
under the gun and under a clock. And I just sent a good size order to Australia, and that was the most stress I've had in a while because I was trying to get a bunch of things done to pack it
Mm-hmm.
all up and make it economical for my supply, my wholesaler on the other end. And that's the only
Right.
kind of deadline pressure I've felt in a while. And
That's amazing.
that was very different. Yeah, it's nice to not have that anymore.
Yeah, it's like you've exited the matrix in some way, by kind of doing your own thing and doing gongs. I mean, building. I mean, you're making gongs. I mean, that's kind of a big deal, actually. Um, in so many ways. Like I don't know. My gongs are quite the center point of like my work, and so they're very powerful. And so how did that come about with you building the gongs?
I think like for most people who get involved in sound and sound therapy and gongs, it's a matter of wanting more and following that intrigue and trying to figure out how you can get more gongs and get more sounds and have more stuff. And
Mhm.
the barrier for a lot of people is money. It's room, it's time. And coming out of the background that I have, being a carpenter, being somewhat of an entrepreneur, and working on engineering, all kinds of different things. It was a matter of, well, how can I do that?
Yeah.
Which is interesting now, because the time we're in, I think it's coming more around to people being self-sufficient, people learning
Yeah.
to do things for themselves, to take care of themselves. It's labor is the
Mhm.
commodity now.
Yeah.
10 years ago, if you needed work on your house, there was 15 people that would be happy to give you a bid and step
Right.
over each other to do that. And now there's such a lack in the workforce for regular things to be done. So people are caused to becoming more self-sufficient. And for me, getting out of contracting, what I like now is that I am and I can be self-sufficient, and I'm not dependent on anyone else. I'm not dependent on my employees or somewhat on my suppliers, but I'm not held up. I'm not a restaurant that can't open because I don't have enough staff. I'm not a carpenter that
Mhm.
can't work because I need someone to hold my material. I can do it. I don't have to wait for anybody anymore, which
Right.
is really nice.
And you're doing what you love, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I have the flexibility to.
Mm-hmm. Shawn, I think I lost you. Shawn,
Yeah.
you there?
Yeah,
You
I'm
there?
here. Did I just
Okay.
dropped out for a second?
Yeah, I dropped off for a second. That's okay.
Yep. I had a
That's okay. Where
call
were we
come
at?
through for some reason. So I had the,
We just gotta
yeah,
laugh.
which is not supposed to be happening now.
Right, right, right. That's, you know what? That's funny because I was thinking like between you, Jens, and like David in Memphis, like it's like all these Gong people that I'm friends with. It's funny how the irony of when you work with gongs and sound, and like all of a sudden you become the cosmic joke becomes like real really quick. Oh my God. See, I'm getting feedback. Okay. I don't know if that'll come through or not, but did you hear that? Did that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's just
You
funny. We gotta
become,
laugh. It's
but you get very sensitive to sound too.
yes. Yeah,
But
yeah.
what I was saying is now I have the flexibility where if I want to surf in the morning, I can go surfing. If I want to take a ride on the motorcycle, I can do that. If I want to get on the backhoe and move some stuff for the hemp farm that works beside me, I can
Mm-hmm.
do that. And I don't feel like I'm sacrificing what I'm doing, because the reality is, as one guy, I'm
Yeah.
limited by the fatigue of my body. I can't
Mm-hmm.
hammer all day.
No. And you shouldn't
Physically
be.
can't do it. Well, I'm not one of these German guys that's been doing it for 20 years that, can crush you with their bare hands. I need rest. I need time in between, and I had to learn to pace myself in that way.
Yeah. I
So
think
it's like
that's
a
what we're
forced,
gonna yeah. Rest.
yep,
That's what
forced rest in between, and in times when I have to stop and walk away, because it's all manual labor.
right. Right. Well, I think it's a good balance. You gotta stay balanced in order to really, you know, crank it out, I think. I think that's kind of where we're entering the time we're in is having more of that balance in life. And we've been so used to, like you said, I mean, 2019, when I look at the way I worked, even when I was, approaching sound and all that, is like I was more in grind mode, like always pushing, pushing to get somewhere. And like, after 2020, it was kind of like everything
Yeah,
just kind
what?
of yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's interesting. And I know that's about you started like the gong making it in 2022, 2020 as well, right? Like in the beginning, was it?
Well, no, I started about 4 years ago. I started in, I think, 2017 is when I
Gotcha.
really started taking on the craft. And
Mm-hmm.
I went from, working full time,
Mm-hmm.
doing remodeling, leaving like 4 o'clock to between 3 and 4 o'clock. I would leave the job and I would go home, or I would go to my shop and continue to work until 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So it's hours and
Yeah.
hours and hours. And then when I was working on my last job, that last period of time, it was 60 hours a week on the job, and then trying to squeeze in gongs, but also knowing that this was my last job
Mm-hmm.
and I had plenty of time after that to make the gongs, but it's still, and it is now, it can be an 80, 90 hour work week because when I come home and I'm done, I'm talking to customers, I'm posting to social media,
Yeah.
I'm lining things up and setting them up and coordinating different parts of my life. So I don't really stop. If I'm home at 9 o'clock and someone in another part of the world wants to talk, then we end up talking, which is interesting because I've customers all over the globe now.
I know. That's amazing. But
I
that's
can't
kind of
even
how
tell
sound
you.
goes. Yeah. No, tell me.
No, it's humbling. It's humbling to
Yeah.
because I have a couple wholesalers and I'll be on social media and I'll see obviously my feed is loaded with an assortment of things, and one of them is Gong. So I'll see a Gong, I'm like, shit, that's mine. Who
Yeah.
is this person that has my Gong that I don't know who they are?
That's
You know,
amazing.
and they're in say Sweden or in Italy or something like that. It blows me
Yeah,
away.
it should. I think that's incredible.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
the
pretty
world
wild.
shrinks in sound, I feel like. When we get into the sound world, it's all of a sudden like we just are close to everybody, in
It's
some
a nice network of people that we're connected
yeah.
to,
Yeah, I agree. It's a beautiful group of people. Very, very real people. That's what I love about it too.
and
Um,
diverse. So
and
diverse, different parts of the country, different parts of the world.
yeah,
We have
yeah,
this thing in common that's not super popular right now. So it's intimate enough to where you can
yeah,
kind of know a majority of the players in the world.
absolutely. Yeah. I'm so glad that I get to experience it like this too, though, like where I do get to meet all these people and I mean, like, Jens even, like I meeting Jens was huge for me. Coming, from where I came from a few years back. Now it's like you were the first person that I connected with. You got me my first instruments, and
Yep.
and you weren't selling the gongs then, and now it's like look at you like out here, and it's like you're my friend. It's amazing, Um,
It's
it's really
wild
cool.
to stand back and look at how it all came to be
Yeah.
and
So
how I get to do that now. It's wild.
yeah. So tell me, I've always wanted to even like get into this with you, but tell me about you before, like your first experiences with sound. Like, was there one like profound time you had? Like, what kind of led you into the sound path? You know?
That's it's an interesting question because there's a couple of things that kind of all converged at once where I was introduced to sound sessions, sound baths, things like that,
Hmm.
where it was intriguing and it was fascinating, and the sound was such that it drew me in and it made me curious. And I had
Yeah.
a guy I was working with that was an intuitive healer, and he was segueing at the time into sound. He and his partner would do these pretty good sized sound baths where you'd have 30, 40 people in attendance on any given Friday night. They were quite successful. They had an assortment of instruments, and I enjoyed that, but I had a hard time enjoying it because I have a high functioning mind where it's always going. It's always thinking. So it's hard for me to relax and not be hyper
Yeah.
vigilant and hear everything that was
Uh-huh.
going on in the room. And at the time, I had invited someone in to do a sound ceremony at the practice that I had, and I allowed myself to kind of get into it a little bit more and follow the sound, and that was intriguing. That kind of brought me into focus a little bit.
Hmm.
And then the next evolution was me creating those sounds for myself. And I started with singing bowls and the
You started with
frosted
the
bowls.
bowls.
Yeah, and then got into the alchemy bowls, which at the time I kind of thought were silly because they looked like plastic trash cans you'd find at Marshalls or TJ Maxx, and we started to play with those a
Yeah.
little bit, and understanding the nuance to them, and ended up hooking up with another woman who had gongs, and get to play her gongs, and I was playing the bowls, and we worked together for many years, and it just evolved from there.
Mm-hmm.
And the sound was the only thing that could really help bring me present,
Yeah.
bring me into that moment and not thinking about everything that I was doing, everything that I had going on.
Yeah. Yeah. They're powerful.
For sure.
So
And they exist all by themselves. It's a sound, and you either like
yeah.
it or you don't like it. And it's that simple. You don't have to argue with it. You don't have to believe in it. You don't have to subscribe to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just you can relax into it or
Yeah.
not. I've played nursing homes, and old people are great because they're so honest. One woman would stand up and say, "Well, I don't understand this," and she would just leave. It's like, okay, that's honest. She's not faking it.
I
Well,
love
I
it.
don't
I
like
love
this.
honesty.
Yeah, like this is awful. I'm leaving. And they would the old people at the nursing home. They would talk the whole time.
Oh
They'd
my
have a
God.
conversation. Because they didn't know there was a protocol, and I wasn't going to tell them. And
Right.
most of them really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. I'm picturing you in a home with old people right now playing gongs, and it's cracking me up.
Yeah, it was actually it was really fun because the ones that liked it, they really loved it.
I bet. I bet. It's so funny. It's like kids too. They're the same way. They're gonna tell you the absolute truth, which I appreciate from anybody in life these days.
Sure.
One of the reasons
One
I
of
really like you, you're a very honest person.
the
Very
yeah.
comedic too. I love that. Love
Oh, I
that.
mean, I think in everything you do in life, you have to have joy and you have to have fun. And to
Yeah.
me, the joy and laughter are profoundly healing, much even more so than sound, because if you can make somebody laugh, if you can hear a child laugh, and that opens up the heart, it opens up your diaphragm, it opens up your consciousness, and you can really enjoy that.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember
And
your in 2020 when we were going through all the craziness, basically like in the lockdown part, you were doing these on Facebook, you would do these, I forget what we called them, but like they were like thoughts by Shawn. It was all these random just thoughts, and it was just I lived for opening that up. Like whenever you did that, some of it was really real, but the way you put it was just it was very very healing and
for
very
some, a lot of people got
oh,
really
oh,
triggered by that, and
oh,
I
I
lost some
know.
friends because of that. And I go
I
through that
know.
all the time, where you provoke
That's
people into a
yeah.
thought or emotion, and they
Oh man.
they get mad, especially if it challenges their reality.
Yes. And that is the sound work actually too. I mean, in essence, metaphorically, it's really the same.
Mm,
And many everything is like kind of bringing those things to light. But I just I personally enjoyed those comedic.
I had fun with that, and I don't know if I'm
Yeah,
gonna bring it back or not.
bring it. I'm
You
like
know,
always like bring it back. I missed it. It's so good. And even the triggered people was good. It was just what it is, you know. Like I
so
mean,
here's
that
the
is
here's
the
the
blessing.
paradox. Here's the paradox of my reality, right? Is that my business is largely based in social media.
Yeah,
That's where I get my advertising. That's where I promote what I do. So I have to be very careful, especially now, with what I
yeah,
present on there,
uh,
because I can have my account shut down. And
yeah,
if my account shuts down, I can't post, I can't promote my items or my business or myself. So I have to walk that really fine line. And today, as a matter of fact, I have a woman who wants to report me for something that I shared that was very deep and very intimate,
um,
but also very
um,
provocative. So to
I think,
get that line.
uh-huh. I think I know which one you're talking about if it was recent.
It was one of those things
Yeah,
I posted
yeah.
yesterday that was so
Mhm.
powerful in a lot of ways. A lot of people wouldn't touch it. They're like,
Yeah.
nope. And then I post a picture of me of the gong, and it gets all this attention. It's like, okay, so all you people saw this but
I know.
ignored it.
I
But
know.
you put a picture of a dog up or something like that,
Oh
and
God.
everyone responds to it.
I
So
know.
it's a really, really, really fine line for me, especially now with the censorship regarding anything that challenges the official COVID narrative right now.
Yeah.
You can get shut down for it, and that's something I struggle with because I have a real
Yeah.
hard time with the now that we're in. I don't like it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I've pulled away a lot from, I used to share a lot more, than I do now too, for the same reasons, and also it's just kind of where spirits guided me to just, just allow people to, you know, they're gonna choose. I mean, I don't need to, it's not, if they're not getting it by now, I don't really need to say a whole lot. Now, there's some things I'm not gonna, I'm just gonna be me, and that's just what it is. But
So
yeah,
I guess in conclusion to that is what I think people become very confused
yeah,
because, I don't consider myself an artist. There's an art to what I do, and there's a
hmm,
beauty to what I do. So there's this feeling that I'm this artistic airy fairy person, but I also have this very concrete side where that's has both feet in the real world that
absolutely.
that applies things like logic and
Hmm.
critical thinking to the world, and people find those two items incongruous. They have an expectation that because you do this, you're not supposed to do this. Because
Totally.
you worked as this, well, you're not supposed to swear, and you can't use those words, and
Right. It's the transparency. That's the one thing. That's what I love about you too, is you are one of the most transparent people I know. I mean, that's why you're my friend.
well,
I love
thank
and
you.
appreciate that in people, and
But
it's
I still have to walk that line.
I,
So I think people
right.
get confused when I this is what I do for work, this is my living, this is my passion, and in their
Hmm.
minds they can't wrestle with the idea that I don't think exactly like they do.
Hmm.
Some of my
Exactly.
best friends I disagree with on a lot of things. We see things very differently, but we love each other, and we can have that dialogue, and we can have that talk, and know that
Right.
at the end of the day, if push comes to shove and I got to pull this person out of a volcano, I will do it
Right.
because I care
It's
about that
healthy.
person as that person, not because we all think alike. We don't have a hive mind.
Absolutely. It's healthy. It's that's where we should be going. I mean, it's such a big thing right now, and I know you probably heard about the Spotify thing and all this wild.
I
Yeah, I
and
know. I
I
know.
I listen to Rogan. I have a 45-minute commute to work most days, and that's why I listen to it. I listen to it because he's curious,
Yeah.
because he's got guests on that I may never have heard of before, and I learn. It's like a college education class every podcast, and the amount of
Hmm.
information I learn, the curiosity, the intellect, the integration, the multidisciplinary integration of information is fascinating. From
Hmm.
diet to exercise to philosophy to science, and I've said for a long time, one, he's got the best job in the world because he
Yeah.
just sits and shoots the shit with people all day long,
How amazing is that? I know.
and it's just a fascinating array of guests. And I've also said that he's the most powerful person in media that no one's paying
Yeah.
attention to, which I believe he's
Yeah.
totally fine with. Just he wants to do his own thing, and that's great. And now they've brought a fight to him, and now they're not only have they made him the most powerful person in media, they've put him up on a pedestal. So they've
Yeah.
shot themselves in their foot by trying to get rid of him for asking questions,
Right.
for having critical thinking. And if
Yes.
you've listened to his guests and the dispersal of people and the lives that they live, it's fascinating, absolutely
Hmm.
fascinating. And I think that all these people that are complaining about him have not taken the time to listen to any of his podcasts, not in the entirety. And 3 hours is a long commitment, but they're being told that he's bad. He said someone said the other day on CNN he's racist, homophobic, or transphobic. The last
I,
podcast I listened to was 3 hours with a trans woman.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that kind of stuff just it drives me batty. So
It's just it'll make you bonkers totally. I mean, that's the same thing. I mean, just hearing what you said about what they're saying about him, it's like I got the same kind of shit when I was posting on Facebook in 2020. All of a sudden, like people rose up to tell me how I was racist and I was this and I was that and oh, I don't even know. It was just the most like wildest shit that was couldn't be any more further from the truth. But these people are just coming out of the woodwork. They don't know who I am, what I, they know nothing. They're not with me in my daily life. They don't even see what I do. They don't pay
right.
attention. They never paid attention to me before, and all of a sudden they want to some one post they saw. They want to take their imagination and run with it, and or whatever. It's the
I,
same thing. It's just happening over and over. It's like the like resistance, it's that just complete resistance
I think
to.
you know how we had the Great Depression, we had the Roaring Twenties.
Hmm.
We have all these eras and epochs we lived through, and I think I want to coin this one the Great Gaslight
Yeah.
because that's something that's been so prevalent,
Yeah.
and the fact that people don't see it right now is it numbs my mind. So it's caused me to really pull away from it a little bit because I
Me
can't interact that and focus on my life and the quality of my life
too.
if I'm too invested in this make believe world that doesn't even exist.
Exactly. Yeah. You got gongs to make anyway.
I got gongs to make, and if I make people happy doing that, that's great. It's
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. And
Yeah.
if I could just live in the mountains or live away from society and do my thing, I could be happy doing that. But
Yeah.
again, the
Me too.
paradox of my world is that I spread myself out across the world through social media. So it's a mixed blessing for sure.
I totally get that. I feel the same way because that's where I'm torn at the same time. I'm like, God, I don't want to do Instagram, Facebook, all this stuff, but I'm like, but if I don't do it, then how am I going to participate in like getting what I need to get out there, like my work,
Yeah,
and what
that's
you
that's
do is so valuable. What you do is incredibly valuable, and you're kind of like pioneering it really in Western in the West, like in USA. I mean, who else is there anybody else building gongs in the USA
yeah.
right now?
There's now a couple of people in the U.S. There's a
Yeah.
woman named Kat who I guess passed away recently. I never encountered her. She had a
Mm-hmm.
company called High Desert Gongs, and I believe she just passed away. Ryan Shelley's been here making gongs for
Ryan. Mm-hmm.
15 years, who's amazingly talented and articulate, and
Mm-hmm.
produces some of the best looking stuff you'll ever see in the world. And he just keeps to himself and does a few things. There's Ross, Christanium Gongs, who's making titanium gongs out in Colorado. He makes a really beautiful product. And
Nice.
there may be a couple other people sprinkled in there that I'm forgetting, but for the most part, here in the U.S., there's only a couple of us.
Yeah, I mean you just named them, so that says everything. I mean, and that's kind of, that's how special it really, really is. I mean, honestly. I wanted to ask you, like, what do you use, like what metals do you use for your gongs, or are they different for each one?
I do stainless steel and I do nickel
Mm.
silver, which is a copper
Okay.
alloy,
Yeah.
which is the
I
same material used by the German gong manufacturers. There's a couple other people that'll do stainless steel gongs. There's a guy in
gotcha.
Uruguay who will use it. There's
So
Michael Milas in England was using it.
is that like what Meinl uses, or like what is the difference between
They use
what?
a nickel silver, Paiste, Meinl, Gongland, Tone of Life. I'll use nickel silver gongs.
Gotcha.
Broder Oak
Gotcha.
uses nickel silver. He makes some of the Meinl gongs. So
Right.
it's kind of been the metal of choice for gong makers, and Paiste was the one who really pioneered that and brought that
Hmm.
technology and sound to where it is now. Anyone that's making gongs and
Hmm.
has their lineage traced back to Michael Paiste, who started these
Yeah.
instruments. which
Yeah.
are a derivative of the Chinese and the Asian gongs and Persian gongs that have been around for thousands of years.
Yeah. Tell me like how like what is the tuning process when you do tuning? Like how is it how does that go? What does that look like?
It's all based on tension. So the
Okay.
amount of tension you have, the kind of tension, the hardness or spring in the metal, all play a factor into it. The heat plays a factor into it. It can be a very complicated process.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's safe to say for most of us, once we find a formula that works, we write it down.
Right.
You write down your results and catalog it and say, okay, this is what I need to do now to get this particular sound or this kind of sound,
I can
and you
only
work from there.
imagine. Yeah. I can only imagine at when you're building the gongs, like does it I mean, is it like I feel like you're like probably getting a huge life lesson in just the process of building a gong or making a gong, right? The processing and what it takes and everything.
Well, it
Would you say
evolves.
that?
It always evolves, right? So when we have the
Right.
lockdowns, I went things were going really good my first month or so, doing just gongs. Like things were flying out the door, business was good, and then it came to an abrupt halt. And there were
Mm-hmm.
times when I didn't make anything for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because I just didn't have room in the house to bring anything back. So there was a relearning that would happen when I would go back into the shop, and I forget things, and I still forget things now. And remember, oh yeah, this is the technique I use to solve this problem. And oh yeah, I can do that. Like you forget because I haven't been doing it long enough to where the whole process is second nature. So I'm still learning,
Mm-hmm.
and there are different techniques that I experiment and play with. I may at times do hand engraving and make a nice flower, and then I may get into color or
Right.
texture or producing a different tone or sound or
Yeah.
kind of going with that stuff. And now I'm working with some of the mirror finishes and the polishes and the patinas and the colors.
Yeah, they're
So
beautiful. That's one thing I'll say about your gongs. They're really like aesthetically beautiful. That I'm looking at them right now on this on your website. And like, so how do you do these prints? Like when you do the Metatron's cube, and how do you do that? How does that even?
I don't do that part. So
Okay.
those geometric shapes, I don't have the
Yeah.
skill set to be able to engrave that and do it perfectly.
Right. Oh, it's
There are a couple
beautiful.
of
I mean,
people that can do that. Michael Milas can do it. Grata Sonora can do it. That's not my forte. So I have a friend with a CNC machine and bring boxes of metal over and lay them out there. And the Metatron, I think that one might take the longest. That's like a minute and 20 seconds.
okay.
And it comes out exactly the same every time. And it's perfect in proportion and dimension. So I'd prefer to do that rather than me try to spend 5 hours engraving that and not being happy with the result.
Yeah. So what is like your most popular? Do you have one that's like really popular right now, or does it change, or how does what's that look like?
It changes. It changes
Yeah.
all the time. Sometime I'll do something and it'll go within an hour of posting it. Someone will have to have it. The Cosmos did that.
Yeah.
That was a really wild look, an experiment with colors and shadow, and those went
Yeah.
pretty quickly. The Srianta is always popular. I get a lot
Okay.
of those that go out the door after engrave. I'm almost out of 32-inch material, but I could probably sell 32-inch Sriantas all day long.
Gotcha. I really love that rain gong. I actually the big one you have, I think is like 64 inch. Is that right?
60,
64
yeah. Yeah,
or
that has
60?
amazing
That
depth.
is, oh my God. I one day I want to come up there to your studio and play that thing.
I wish I could
But
make that bigger. I wish I could get the larger stainless steel to make that even bigger. Right now, the biggest I can make is a
yeah.
62-inch nickel silver.
Now, do you make those in smaller form too? Like, or you make smaller versions of the rain gong, or?
I do, and the stainless steel, I don't like to go below 36 inch because I don't think it
Ah,
has
okay.
the sound to really to warrant it. beauty of that is the
I
material is
gotcha.
relatively light compared to the copper alloys. So that
Okay.
60-inch rain gong I can pick up and hang all by myself. I don't need any help. Where
Gotcha.
my 52-inch nickel silver gong, I need help with that, or I need to roll it, or get creative to get something like that hung. I can work it, I can
Yeah.
make it all myself, but I can't hang it by myself.
Right. Right. So there's something I want to touch on too, before we, like, I want to talk about the like the tuning, because you have kind of like, um, you know, most people when they get gongs, it is all planetary. People are looking for the planetary gongs because that is the popular thing. And it's kind of like, with bowls, how everybody's learned the chakra system and they want to apply, these things in more of a linear fashion. And I just I'm intrigued by your view on it because I have to say I feel the same. Um, but your stuff is not in planetary tuning, correct? It's
No, and this is where Jens and I will go fisticuffs because I disagree with the
and
idea of planet tuning.
so
Yeah,
it's okay.
what did we call it at Gong Summit? He had a name for it, and for a while on some of the forums, there would be these long drawn out arguments, people going back and forth. And one of the things Jens did, and I wish I could get the video of it, was some of the people that participated in those arguments were there at Gong Summit.
Right.
So without anyone knowing, he had printed out several copies of these arguments and brought the people up on stage and made them made them state their
Oh my
position as they
God.
did.
Jens did that?
Jens did that.
That
Absolutely
is such a
hilarious.
Jens move right there. That's
Yes, the frequency
hilarious.
wars. That's what he called the frequency wars, and he made
Um,
everyone sign a paper afterwards.
oh my gosh.
Oh, it was pure comedy.
I wish I
Uh,
could have been there for that. Oh my God.
that was
That's amazing.
that was well worth the price of admission. We had a lot of
I
funs with Jens.
I
He's
can guarantee.
amazing.
I absolutely love Jens, and I can't even. It's like the universe brought him into my world. I mean, he's obviously I did a training with him, and meeting him was just one of the like. It was exactly what I needed in my sound journey, and yeah, he's incredible, and I love his comedic value too. He's just he's just Jens, man.
He's doing
By the way, have you seen that video of him with Yogi uh Banan, or what's his name? The
Yogi
Kundalini
Berra.
guy.
Yeah, he plays with the
The-
baseball bat. No, I've
yes.
never seen that.
The Kundalini. You haven't seen that video? I'm gonna send it to you. It's a testament in itself of like it was just wild. Like that was when Jens was introducing his first planetary set to the Kundalini yoga community, I guess. And yeah,
Yeah,
the guy just brutalized the gongs. And Jens is just I remember that's the first thing I asked him when I met him. I said, "Now tell me, what were you thinking and feeling this moment?"
yeah. I would imagine he wanted to run.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
if you watch how I play in my demo videos, there's a certain level that I don't go over in sound because I don't enjoy it. I don't like
yeah.
loud noises. It's hard to imagine, but I don't like loud noises and that shrill high sound. So when I started making my gongs, it was a journey into bass, into really low
Mhm.
frequencies, into what I would call a more visceral sound.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
the planetary tunings, it doesn't make sense to me. It's too much mental gymnastics to try two things together. Excuse me. That to me don't correlate. If you said that this is a gong based on the Schumann frequency of the Earth, like a measurable sound frequency that
Right.
emanates from the planet, I understand that. That
Gotcha.
makes sense to me. If you said Saturn has a certain sound, and here's the same sound in an audible octave, cool, that's great. But to tie in the revolutions of the planet to a sound frequency and then say that this does something to you, that's where you lose me.
Well, all is relative. I mean, it's just, I mean, that is in essence, I mean, if you really want to get into integral sound, I mean, you don't throw anything out. And it's like, that's kind of where, like, when I do my teaching, I always teach people I don't just say, this is what it is. This is how it is. This is because it's just not that. And truly, like, from a 0 point perspective, you can really make anything exactly what you intend it to be. So I
And
get
that's the
from that
crux of
perspective.
sound
Yeah, yeah,
is the intent in it.
yes, yeah.
So it
It's
has to
everything.
be experience based sound, and Mindel and Paiste both make planet gongs. I
Yeah,
don't need to make planet gongs. That market is full. They make symphonic gongs. So Mindel no longer makes a symphonic, but
right. They don't, I
Paiste
know.
does. So,
Yeah,
they have that market. I'm not going to try to recreate something that's already done really, really well. I wanted to create different sounds and find more of a niche combination of aesthetic and sound character.
right.
So I have my own lane. Ryan Shelley has his own lane. Matt Nolan has his own lane. It's
I
a
love it. That's
it's a different thing.
that's exactly where we need to be going too, is like the emphasis on really creating your own unique thing with sound, or like that's what I encourage everybody who I teach anything is like take what I give you, but then go out and learn for yourself, because everybody is like our own unique pattern, our own unique signature on things. It's
Yeah,
all valid and part of the story. So, but it does help to sell things because everybody wants an answer, right? Like if somebody wants to, open their heart, they're like, I need all the F holes, I need
I
it's
need the
just
thing that's going to do the thing to me
right,
because,
right,
but I'm not going to do anything for me. So
right.
there's a degree of bypassing to it.
Hmm. Yeah,
And it's an experience. So you get a gong, you get a bowl. It's an experience you have between you and that instrument. And
yeah,
everything else kind of needs to be irrelevant for that connection because it is to you what it is to you.
exactly,
You
exactly.
know,
So you know, your gongs are for everybody, you'd say, right? For
yeah.
everybody,
Well, they're for those who are drawn to them.
right?
If someone says, "Well, I want a gong to do this, this, and this," I can't help you.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah, I
that's
totally
not
get it.
what I do. And even the idea of a
Yeah.
tuned gong, like the Asian gongs, the nipple gongs, the boss gongs, you can tune those. And they're going to be accurate. They're going to be consistent.
Uh-huh.
When you get into a membrane-based nickel silver gong that has a symphonic characteristic to it, it may have that tone on the initial attack, but
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to dissipate. So it doesn't stay at that 140 some hertz frequency that
Totally.
resonates with Saturn or Mars. It's going to move. It's going to
Yes.
change, and that's part of the
Experience.
it's part of the experience in that sound is that your mind isn't fixed on that single tone. It gets carried away in the different overtones and the harmonics.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like when you like if you play a bowl, right? Like a metal bowl, and you can put it on a frequency meter or a note meter, and it's gonna run through, like, it could be like a C bowl, and you're gonna run through, like, it's gonna bounce around all these different notes, the overtones. So it's like, I don't know, to
Right.
just call something one thing. And like, I'm with you on the viewpoint of like really, like, I encourage people to try things to see what resonates with you. What do you like? Because it might be something totally different than what you think you need, you
Yeah, or
know.
what you're told you have to get. I've had a lot of
It
people come through
ex
who went
Oh
to
yeah.
the
Oh
Kundalini
my God.
community, and their teacher told them they had to have this, 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 and
Yeah.
this, and this, and they show up
Yeah.
and they feel guilty because they're like an $800 wind gong.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
it if you love it, get it because that's what you want to have.
That's
No one
right.
can do
I get a
that.
lot
Can do that.
a lot of energy healers or people doing like things of that nature. I get a lot of people that come to me to get stuff. And they're like, oh, I was told from my Reiki person that I need this. And I'm like, oh, well, how about we sit and try some things out? Let's see what you really need,
That's the best way to do it, is to go into it with an open heart and open mind. And how does this feel? Does it feel good? Does it feel bad? Do I like it? Do I not like it? Would I
Yes,
like it brighter? Do I want it darker? That's the part that matters,
absolutely.
not
Yeah,
what someone who is not there thinks you should have.
yeah, exactly. It's
No,
just that, yeah, it goes into that whole, I mean, that's what I think. That's, sound is such a wonderful tool to really to take people to that inward place and to it's the feminine aspect of, ourselves. It's inside. So it's a great tool to show us what we need rather than having somebody or something outside saying this is what you need, which is, you
I
know,
would agree, and I think that's the advice to take out of all of it.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so Shawn, what platforms where can people find your gongs? I know you have Shawn Aceto Sounds is your website,
Yep, that's also
right?
my Instagram tag, and I have a Facebook page as well
Yep,
for
and then
that, and
Facebook.
YouTube, and YouTube. I put everything up on YouTube. It doesn't mean it's available, but that's where I upload everything that ultimately gets migrated to the website.
Right. And are you doing any recordings to put like for for people to hear like some of the like the rain gong or something like that where they
Yeah,
can listen?
those are all on YouTube, and one of the things I started recently was making more of a long form recording of some of the gongs, because I have a unique opportunity where I have gongs that nobody else has. And I have
Yeah,
access to 20, 30, 40 gongs and several really large gongs that people might not really be able to have an intimate listening experience with. So I've started doing some of that recording for myself so I can journey, because
cool.
I found that it's really hard for me to find someone else's recording and
Mhm.
be able to trust it, to be able to immerse myself into it,
Mhm.
and really let go. I had one of my customers in Canada share a recording with me yesterday that was beautiful. It was exactly what I would want if I wanted to meditate, if I wanted a journey. There was grace, there was space, there wasn't all of these extra sounds thrown into the mix.
Right.
It was what I'd want. So I'm trying to do that for myself in the limited recording capacity that I have here at the house, where I have to have nobody in the house, and traffic has to be light that day, and all these other factors have to come together. So it's a little bit difficult to be able to get an hour clear to do that. But
Mhm.
I am trying to do that on a regular basis for people to really dive into.
Cool. I would love to check that out. So this is more like a pure just gong. It's just gong.
Gong and a little bit of bowl. They're all journey music is all on my YouTube channel. I got 3 up there right now.
Okay.
And with some of the bigger stuff, obviously, I can make a longer sample recording. Whereas, it's hard to make a 20-minute recording with a 28-inch gong.
Gotcha.
So when you have a 40 or 36 or 52, you have a lot more landscape to play on to make those longer format videos.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to go check it out. I also am excited because I really need to get one of your gongs. We'll have to talk about that another time, but I've got to have one of your gongs for sure, and find one that's fitting for me. That'll be that'll be interesting. Um, but I thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to doing something here in the future, maybe on a Zoom where we can actually see the gongs and maybe hear some of the gongs, something like that. If you're into that,
That's, yeah, that sounds
yeah,
good.
cool. All right. Well, I think that is there any last things you want to leave with anybody out there?
No, I think we covered everything.
We got it.
Maybe more than we anticipated.
I know, right? I know. I could talk to you forever. But yeah. All right, so we'll just wrap it up there. So as within, so without, as above, so below. Love is truly all that is. So be it. Wholeness, people. Bye.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Awaken Sponda podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please stay tuned because we got a lot more in store. And personally, I am really excited about it. Also, if you'd like to come to any local events, check the website www.awakensponda.com. As well, if you'd like to book any privates or any small group sessions in state or out of state, you can email at awakensponda@gmail.com. That's it. I wish you well. I wish you a wonderful day. Wholeness.